أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Velicham Online is an initiative to promote Islamic awareness using internet. Velicham heartily welcomes all of you for this talk on the topic The Role of an Expatriate Muslim by Dr. Ahmad Kutty. Even though we all are away from our homeland, as Muslims, we have duties and responsibilities as we represent Islam in the society where we are living. As many of us know, Dr. Ahmad Kutty is a world-known scholar. He is the Chancellor of Islamic Institute of Toronto, Canada, and moreover, he is an expatriate also. Alhamdulillah, Dr. Ahmad Kutty has happily agreed to spend his valuable time for us. Today, Doctor will share his thoughts on this topic and will try to clarify our doubts. I am not taking much time. On behalf of Velicham Online, I invite Dr. Ahmad Kutty to deliver his speech. May Almighty Allah reward him the best for his time. Welcoming all of you again for this program. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sir, please unmute. We cannot hear you. I think you are mute.
Still you are mute. Right top you can see on button. The mic symbol, you can make it.
Okay, then I am not using the other PowerPoint. Can you display it now? Hello?
Yes, I will display the PowerPoint.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Brothers and sisters, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Inshallah, in this brief presentation, I am going to speak about our responsibilities as expatriates. As we all know, as Muslims, we have responsibilities, and we have, as people coming from back home into another country, we have dual responsibilities. One is to the country that we are residing as citizens or residents, and the other is our responsibility to our own home country where we were born and brought up, where our parents are there and uncles and aunts. So in this brief talk, I will highlight some of these issues. We need to act as ambassadors of Islam, and we need to act as fair witnesses, shuhada lillah qawwamina bil qist. This is our Quranic mandate. Wherever we are act as witnesses for truth. That is the true message of Islam, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed for all of mankind. And also, we need to act as agents of change and reform in the country where we come from. because we are living in a new world, new society, we are in a unique position. We have some advantages that people in our home country do not have. Because we are living in a new world, which is the product of the so-called Enlightenment. Whether you agree to call it that way or not is another issue, but it is a pluralistic society, it's a democratic society, it is an open society. So we have here some advantages, we have opportunities, we have a better perspective on many things. We can look at the situation back home critically, and we can look at the situation here where we reside. We can appreciate the good in the host country, and we can distinguish the good from the bad in both, societies. And in this way we can serve as instruments of change and reform, inshallah. When it comes to these responsibilities, first of all, we need to recognize that Islam is all about serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and serving His creation. This is, in the Quranic terminology, this is called amana. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed this responsibility, this heavy responsibility of trusteeship or acting as shepherds of the earth and its creation. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyyatihi." Every one of you is like a shepherd, responsible for those under his or her care. So we have a dual responsibility to the countryside and to the home country. And we need to serve, as the Prophet said, as keys to good, mafatihul khair. And of course, Quran calls Muslims to be shuhada, as we mentioned. The Prophet told us, among other things, that we need to serve as keys for good. The choice is for each one of us to make, whether are we acting as keys to good and locks to evil, or are we serving as keys to evil, mafatihul shar and maghalikul khair, and locks to goodness. How do we do that? How do we act as keys to good? We need to do that. First of all, our duty is to continuously learn. And learning in Islam is a lifelong process. We need to learn our religion within the context. How do we apply it? And we need to know the society that we are living in. We need to maintain and strengthen our Islam. We need to seek knowledge, both Islamic and the world around us. And this process is an ongoing process. Al-ilmu min al-mahdi ila al-lahd. The Islamic motto says that the process of learning should begin from the day we sit in the lap of our mothers and should continue until we visit our graves. And we have a responsibility to join, to be part of the Jama'ah or the community. And of course, in Islam there is this multiple entities. When we look at the constitution that Rasulullah ﷺ made, he made a pact in Medina. As he came to Medina, he made a pact with the Jews. And this constitution document, which has been analyzed and studied by Dr. Hamidullah, if you read that document carefully, the Prophet said, use the word ummah in two separate meanings. First, he used the term to refer to the global, the nation, the Islamic nation, which consists of two communities, Muslims as a community, as an ummah, and the Jews as a community, as an ummah. So, and together they constitute one ummah. This is the umbrella. And then under that, there is another identity that Muslims are called a sub-ummah and the Jews were called a sub-ummah. So what we learn from this? That as Muslims, we are part of the global Islamic community, and we are also part of the community of the human family. And we have duties to both. And one of the mistakes that Muslims coming from various backgrounds make, it is true of people from Egypt, people from Saudi Arabia, people from India, people from Pakistan, when they come to Canada or America or Australia or wherever they reside, they tend to live as if live in their tribal mindset. I know they need to have their own programs, Islamic education and otherwise. They need to have that. But while they are doing this, all of this, they should also join the wider community, the masjid, which consists of various ethnic backgrounds, people of. So we need to be part of the work that is going on in the community, and we need also to join the wider community. We need to work with those, trying to make homes for those who have no homes, or volunteer in the hospitals with Christians and Jews, or Hindus or Buddhists, whoever they may be. We need to be citizens of the country, we need to be global citizens, and we need to be members of the wider, the global Islamic Brotherhood. And there is no conflict in between all these different identities, because that is what Islam teaches us. So we must embrace the global, universal Islamic Ummah mindset, and while living in this new country, which is materialistic, abundance, prosperity, there is a temptation for us to be seduced by the various fitnas, the fitna of money, greed, materialism, and individualism, which is a real threat for every Muslim or people of conscience, no matter which religion they belong to, because the modern secular societies, as they are now, there is a lot of materialism, consumerism, and there is a danger for Muslims coming here to fall into these temptations and lose their Islamic identity, and then they may lose their children, because when they are not conscious of all of this thing and take charge, they may just be swept away by the winds of materialism and consumerism. So what I'm saying is, we cannot be living in cocoons. We need to be part of the Jama'ah and the community, leave behind the tribal mindset and embrace the Islamic mindset, and guard against the temptations of money, consumerism, and materialism. We need to know the society that we live in. This is a very important concept that Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu said. He taught us, Man lam ya'rif al-jahiliyyah, lam ya'rif al-Islam. Whoever does not know jahiliyyah, he doesn't know Islam. And man ta'allama lughata qawmin salima min shururihim. Whoever learns the language of people, he can avoid their mistakes. So we need to know the society that we are living. within their own perspective. So it's important for us to learn Christianity, to learn Judaism, to learn Hinduism, to learn Buddhism, not as we teach it, but as they teach it, because we need to, in this way, if we can see is there anything common between Islam and these religions, and there are a lot of things common, because essentially Quran teaches us that all of the religions, essentially the great religions, are from God Almighty, although they have been tampered with, the scriptures have been altered and modified, but yet there is the truth there. The water is murky, but Islam, Quran is clear water, but with the help of the Quran we can see the good elements there and join with those people of other religions to work for the common good of the community that we're living in, as well as for the benefit of the humanity. We cannot be prisoners of our own mindset, and there is nothing more dangerous than a person thinking that he knows everything. This is what I have experienced. We see people here. Sometimes I go to the churches and to the theological colleges, and we see they are very much keen. They display great curiosity and inquisitiveness to know even Islam and Islamic community, and to hear our perspective on things. And when we go back home from here, we don't see this kind of inquisitiveness on the part of our Islamic leaders and scholars. They think that they know everything. They know everything about America. They know everything about Canada. They know everything about England. While we know, after living here for many years, we know that their knowledge is warped, and there is a lot of stereotyping. Even as the Western people make stereotypes, we also have a very, very lot of prejudices against the Western societies. Although, as the products of the Quranic thinking and beliefs, we should know that East and West belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we should be acting as bridges, to bridge the gap between the two worlds. So we cannot do it unless we are open to learn and appreciate the good in others and seek wisdom. Al-hikmatu lallatul mu'min. Wisdom is the lost article of a believer. He would try to appropriate it wherever he finds it. And this was the mindset of our great scholars. This was displayed by the great Imams, Abu Hanifa, Malik, and Shafi, and others, because they always considered their own views as tentative, and they always knew that there are more things to learn, and when they know it, they may have to change the views. And therefore you have, in the case of Imam Shafi, you have an old school and a new school. And Imam Abu Hanifa, after having argued vigorously for a point of view, and he presented the conclusion, somebody stood up and asked him, "Is this the truth?" He immediately answered, "Who knows? It could be pure error. Tomorrow we may be exposed to another point of view, another argument, and we may be forced to leave this." So we need to be open-minded. We need to develop tolerance, and also it is important for us to know one of the important points made by Imam Ibn Taymiyyah. Even though people think that Ibn Taymiyyah is a fanatical scholar, when you study him very deeply, you will see there are a lot of insight for Muslims from his researches, from his thought. He said that heresy is not because somebody lacking any element of truth. Heresy is when a person exaggerates one element to the exclusion of other elements. So he says every Muslim sect has some element of truth in it. So, but what is wrong with each one is when they exaggerate one point to such an extent that they ignore the other elements. So this importance of balancing, recognizing the good in each religion, recognizing the good in the East and the West, and then try to synthesize, take the good and try to eliminate the evil by using wisdom, and that should be our mandate. We also should know the working of the society we live in, and it's important for us to know that pluralistic societies are open societies. They are different from the Jahiliyyah society that Islam came to replace. In a Jahiliyyah society, nobody could give the input, nobody could move it forward, because it is an oligarchy, is a despotic minority who are trying to monopolize everything. But in a pluralistic society, this society is open for change. So we need to recognize this as an opportunity for us. We need to, in order to do our job of presenting Islam, we need to know the art of selling ideas in this open market. So open market means anybody can say anything, anybody can criticize anybody, and this is the nature of this society. So when somebody criticizes Islam or the Quran, we have one of two options. What we see today is people acting violently and emotionally. This is not going to benefit us. It's going to make the situation worse, because as soon as we react in a violent way, violence leads to further violence. And of course there are vested interests in these societies who wants to see Muslims committing violence, and then they may use it as an argument to perpetuate the occupation, and also to rationalize and justify the policies of the Jewish state, Israel, and their occupation of the Palestinians. And so we need to know that this, in open societies, we may be criticized, we may be targeted. It is part of the game. So we need not react to harsh criticisms. Rather, we need to benefit from these criticisms. One of the wisdom that Imam Shafi taught us, he said that we can learn from our critics and enemies what we could not learn from our friends, because Ainul Rida an kulli aibin qalilatun kama anna aina sukhti tubdil masawiya. The look of love make you blind to the faults of your beloved, but the look of hatred and dislike will expose the faults. So we can benefit from our critics, from our enemies. And of course this is a wisdom you will see in Umar al-Khattab, how radiallahu anhu, when he said, Rahimallahu imran ahda ilayya uyuba nafsi uyubi. May Allah have mercy on him who gives me a gift of pointing out my mistakes to me. And he said, this is very, very sad today. I said it in Saudi Arabia when the Arab News interviewed me, what advice you would give. I said, you see, Muslims have lost this ability to reform, to accept criticism. Umar al-Khattab said, when Muslim leaders don't welcome criticism and people are not willing to offer criticism, that would be the end of the Islamic Ummah. That will bring down the Ummah. Actually, this is true of even Islamic movements, because when we go from here and sometimes offer some criticism, they react to it very, very negatively instead of welcoming this. Here is even a friend offering this criticism, and they are not willing to take it in a good spirit. and this is really characteristic of the Muslim Ummah. We have lost this openness, criticize ourselves, to see our faults, to look in the mirror, honestly, and say what is wrong with me, what is wrong with my ummah, what is wrong with my society, so that why are we in this state? So when we develop this kind of openness and critical thinking, our situation can be improved. We can be as we are placed in this new home, new world, we have this kind of insights that we can learn from. The Quran teaches us not to be overly upset with those who mock us. People may mock us, people may criticize us, nothing to be worried about it. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, in tastahzi'u minna fa inna nastahzi'u minkum kama tastahzi'un. If you mock us, we can mock you too. And Allah said, when they walk away from, when they pass by the frivolous level, saying we have no time to waste. And Allah said, وَلَا تَسْتَوِي الْحَسَنَةُ وَلَا السَّيِّئَةُ إِدْفَعْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Meet the evil with that which is better. So this should be our policy in regards to criticism, in regards to the negative portrayals of Islam and Rasulullah and the Quran. So we have a mandate to make the society move forward towards greater justice and fairness for all. And this is, we have to play this role in the country we are living as citizens, in this host country. We have a responsibility to make the society move forward towards greater justice and fairness. Actually, one of the things I learned when I became a Canadian citizen, I was given this book which explains the duties of a citizen. When I read that document, I said to myself, this is a document that we need in Saudi Arabia. This is a document we need to have in every Muslim country. And essentially that document, everything there largely is the Quranic spirit of justice and fairness, and how Muslims should be, always standing forth as witnesses of truth and justice. So this is what we need to understand as citizens. We have a responsibility to make the society we live prosper for the benefit of all citizens, to work for justice, to work to remove poverty and homelessness, and to counter evil with wisdom. And we need to develop and master the new skills. When we say new skills, today knowledge is essential, and knowledge in a comprehensive sense, because the concept of knowledge in Islam is not limited to theology or jurisprudence. Unfortunately, we are choking in Kerala with these theological schools. We have lots of them, and every day people are building more and more. What about institutions that teach social sciences, humanities, other religions, as well as technology and sciences? We need to focus, take our mind away from developing more and more madrasas, and instead we need to develop this kind of new institutes of advanced sciences, advanced knowledge, social sciences, media, psychology, anthropology. Without this, we cannot present Islam. Our societies will go down. It will not grow. So we have this responsibility. And another important aspect to consider is all of us need to develop spirituality. When we talk about even Islamic knowledge, even in the Islamic colleges, Arabic colleges today, the teaching of Islam, the curriculum of Islam is completely very, very shallow. We have left this rich Islamic intellectual tradition, where philosophy was taught, tasawwuf was taught, akhlaq was taught. We cut all this rich curriculum and the slogan back to Quran and the Sunnah, meaning understand the Quran in your limited narrow mind, and interpret the Sunnah with your limited perspective. This has done more danger, and that's why most of our theologians think only in terms of black and white. We need to get out of this and develop personalities. The curriculum that produced Imam Ghazali, Ibn Khaldun, and Biruni. This is the kind of curriculum we need, and one of the essential elements missing in our curriculum is the spirituality, connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, purification of the heart from vices and this media frenzy. Everybody want to get to the media. Everybody want to take his picture and present it in the newspaper. This yearning for fame and name, and instead of spending time on developing oneself, developing closeness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and getting rid of engaging in purification of the heart and the soul, we are so much busy in maintaining the superficial existence. So the only way we can internalize Islam is, and actually that is what is called ihsan, in that beautiful hadith of Hadith Jibreel, where the Prophet defined Islam and then Iman and ihsan. So this is actually telling us that we have in Islam an outer shell and we have an inner shell. We have an outward low, and an Islamic personality must be someone whose outward is integrated. So we need to develop our mind, we need to develop our soul, we need to develop our body. In this way, when we do that, we will become true representatives of Islam. And our challenge is to mold ourselves by the prophetic character, Akhlaqul Rasul. This is a big mistake among Muslims for now because of this extremist tendencies. They look at the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ in a very shallow sense. Taking on the wearing the turban and carrying around with a stick which is never washed sometimes for a long time, instead of trying to see the spirit of cleanliness that the Prophet taught, as-siwaku matharatun lil-fam wa marlatun lil-rabb. Brushing the teeth is good oral hygiene, and it is an act that would please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So instead of looking at the spirit, we are taking on the shell of it, and then we carry around, we even import miswak, and without knowing, as Imam Malik shows in his Muwatta, the Prophet never told us we have to limit to Arak. Actually, they had used different plants for brushing the teeth. So for an Indian, he can use the mango leaf, or he can, grind this, make the ashes from the coconut shell, and various ways of toothpaste, and they can do a better job for us there, rather than be confined to this literal understanding this kind of concepts. So we need to get back to the spirit and then develop the prophetic character, mold ourselves by the prophetic character. When we do that, surely we will be instruments of change in the society we live in. And then for back home, where we come from, we can provide this better perspective that we have gained from the wisdom of living in both worlds. We can save ourselves from stereotyping, of both societies, and making unfair judgments, which we do all the time. We make judgments of Americans by the policies of the American government, as if all Americans are You know, they do the same thing when the Western writers sometimes, you know, judge Islam by the performance of some Muslims, by the actions of some Muslims. What are they doing? Stereotyping. And this is racism, and we do the same thing because our people back home interview them, even the Islamists, even the Islamic scholars, they make stereotyping. So living here and being exposed to both worlds, we can save ourselves from this kind of injustice, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ أَلَّا أَن لَا تَعْدِلُوا. Let not your hatred or dislike of people lead you to be unfair in your judgment. اعْدِلُوا, be fair. ذَلِكَ أَقْرَبُ التَّقْوَى, that is closer to piety. And so we can act as witnesses of truth and fairness in both worlds, and in this way we can serve as agents of reform, because we can benefit our home country with the insights, but unfortunately they are not open to receive this kind of insights, and we need to work on this thing. I hope Islamic movements can take lessons from all of this, and we need to develop critical mindset. With this short message, I conclude my presentation, and if you want me, I can answer now some of the questions that were sent to me. Would you like me to do that now, or you want to ask directly other questions? Are you able to hear me now, or?
Yes, we are able to hear you, sir.
You could hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you want me to answer those questions that were mailed to me?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. You can answer it.
Okay, I'm going to read some of those questions. Number one, for last 2 weeks, we are seeing the protest against the makers of the anti-Islamic film throughout the world, killing innocent people. My question is this the right way to protest in case anyone abuses Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Actually, I have answered this question in detail on Islam.net. You can access that answer on Islam.net, and in that site, my answer is posted actually. Under this, I am going to, one second, I'm going to, it's called How to Respond to the Anti-Prophet Movie. When you go to Islam.net, the answer is there, how to respond to the Anti-Prophet Movie. So I have listed a number of points there, and actually essential point already I mentioned in my presentation. I don't need to repeat it, but essentially we need to arm ourselves with the sound knowledge of Islam. Reacting violently is not going to benefit us. By doing that, we play into the hands of Islam bashers. There are right-wing Christians and Zionists in America and elsewhere who want to portray Islam and Muslims in very, very negative ways, and they have their vested interest in doing so. And they know, they have calculated, when they do something like this, Muslims are going to react violently, and then they can use this as an excuse, sometimes even to wage war, and on Muslims. So this is what happened. Whoever had done that attack on the Twin Towers, they used that to invade the Muslim countries, and they left. Now Iraq is in shambles, and Pakistan in shambles, and Afghanistan in shambles, and and also they justify Israel's policies as occupation of the Palestinians. So instead of giving in to this kind, reacting in this way, and playing into their hands, we need to look at it positively and project the true image of Islam. Number one, by acting as ambassadors of Islam, molding ourselves by the character of the Prophet ﷺ, and then, get to know our fellow non-Muslim at work or the campus or in the factory, and join, in acts of compassion. There are projects we can join, projects fighting homelessness, feeding the poor. And when we do that, what we do, we establish this credibility. Actions speak louder than words. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already taught us, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu lima taquluna ma la taf'alun. O you believe, why do you say that which you don't practice? So let our preaching be through our practice, our examples, and this is the method of change that was brought about by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we know how his own character, his own actions turned his enemies into his bosom friends. You have the case of Ikrimah, you have the case of Safwan, you have the case of Umayr bin Wahab, and all those many other who Khalid bin Walid, who fought Islam for many years, and then within the 23 years of the Prophet's mission, he turned his enemies into friends, and he brought peace and reconciliation to Arabia. So I would urge you to go through that answer, and I have another answer there posted also. If you go, this is a question was asked by a non-Muslim, and it's published under blaming Islam for violent reactions, justified. This non-Muslim asked me the question, making fun of Islam. He said, I see your faith in action across North America. How strange that faith in Islam is so weak that any criticism is met with violent protest. So I have provided a good answer here. I have told him that don't rush to judge Islam by the actions of a fringe group or a minority who claim to be Muslims. If we are justified in doing so, we may have to blame every single religion in the world. First of all, Christianity, George Bush and Blair, they claim to be good Christians, but as Desmond Tutu said, both of them should be hauled to the World Court to be charged for crimes against humanity. So are we to blame Christianity for their actions? Are we going to blame Judaism for what Israel is doing to the Palestinians? Because as good scholars of Jewish origin themselves have said, that Israel has committed genocide and barbarism. And the same way, Hinduism also is not free from violence, because in Gujarat, what they did to Muslims. What about Buddhism? They are also not free from violence. Their people have committed, and they did so against Muslims of Burma. So we are not going to blame other religions for the actions of some so-called followers. The same should be judgment that we should exercise in regards to Islam. And then I also mentioned that it's important for us to remember that there is Islamophobia industry thriving in North America and funded by public and private agencies. And this film is part of maybe it is part of that industry, and they were provoking Muslims. So we cannot be provoked in this way. We have to learn the positive ways of proving the good image of Islam, inshallah. Another question here is, there is no single leadership for Muslim Ummah right now. So what kind of a Khilafat is possible for world Muslims without disturbing their current geographical or political status, which is not Islamic? Well, first of all, I need to say, this whole idea of nostalgia for a Khilafah, we should leave this. This is a romantic idea. First of all, Khilafah itself never worked except in during the time of the pious caliphs. And the Khilafah really were active at that time was the Khilafah of Umar or Abu Bakr or Ali, who consulted people in making judgments. So to look for a Messiah or Mahdi to save us is not realistic. We need to take responsibility for ourselves, and we need to develop, as Dr. Iqbal, the very, very intelligent leader and scholar of Islam said, Muslims need to develop the idea of shura and consultation. This is democracy, actually. Of course, when I use the democracy, that doesn't mean that we do what these so-called democratic societies do to change the laws of Allah, haram into halal. No, we cannot play with those immutable laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But outside, we have a wide area of mu'amalat and siyasa where we can judge by the maqasid of Sharia. As Imam Shawaliullah said, the whole area of political governance is all left to the maslaha of the ummah. So maslaha of the ummah now is surely to embrace this new form of rule, governance, democracy, making people participate, and also develop ijtihad, not individual ijtihad. Problems of Muslims are so huge, and we need to tackle that in a fiqh academy as a collective endeavor in which scholars, social scientists, experts in science, technology, they have to be involved in the decision making. So collective ijtihad, in the model of implemented by Umar ibn Khattab, or even Abu Hanifa, he ran a fiqh academy. It is just like a postgraduate seminar, because a lot of discussions were going on, and finally Imam Abu Hanifa will conclude the discussion saying that this is, we have arrived today, and maybe we may have to change this view. So we have to leave this mindset of looking for a Mahdi to save us, or trusting our affair blindly to one person or even a small group of people. That's my insight into that. Now, another question is, as a Muslim living in the West, what are the main advantages, difficulties you find in preaching the message of Islam as compared to the one living in a Muslim majority country? Actually, when I first came here, before 9/11, I should say that wherever I went, I have been to churches, synagogues, not so synagogue, I have other places. I have addressed Christians and Jews and people of all backgrounds, and they used to be very, very receptive to listen, to inquisitive, and I had professors from the university who brought PhD students to the Islamic Center, and every one of these sessions, people went back after listening and they said, we spent 1 hour or 2 hours with you, but we learned from you what we could not learn from hundreds of volumes on Islam. So this was the mindset of people before, but now after 9/11 and the media, Islamophobia industry, many people they have a very negative view of Islam, and this is a challenge. Muslims need to clear it up. But by reacting to criticism in this violent way, even if it is blasphemy against the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ or the Prophet himself, we need to think of positive ways of projecting. Many times it's better for us to ignore. Look at the Rushdie case. When Rushdie published that book, he really calculated that Muslims are going to burn his book and hold out protests, and then what it resulted that he sold millions of his copies of his book, and his work was published in so many languages, and he won awards. He became crowned as one of the best writers of this century. And if Muslims had not reacted and quiet, ignored it, nothing of that would have happened. So we need to look at the outcome. What are we expecting from our action? This is acting by the maqasid of the Sharia. We need to develop this. I urge you to read that answer by Dr. Ali Juma, which was published in, I think, Washington Post. It's a beautiful answer he provided. So instead of reacting emotionally, we need to listen to the advice of those who are trained in Islam and they know the world, like people like Karalawi and others. We can learn from their wisdom in responding to the challenges. And finally, what is the role of a Muslim woman in Dawah? This is a very extremely good question. Actually, Muslims cannot come out of this sorry state unless we empower our women, our mothers. We need to give them a respectable place as the Prophet gave them. Look at the masajid. We keep our women in a dark room. There were mosques in Toronto where women were not admitted. When I first came here, Alhamdulillah, through our work, we successfully managed even to change this masajid. They now welcome women. But of course, the place they give women may not be all that comfortable, but we need to change it. We need to remove that barrier from the masjid. If women can be in the workplace, they can be in the university seminar, they can be in the classroom without barrier. Nothing wrong removing that barrier from the masjid. This is what the masjid of the Prophet was. There was no barrier. In this way, they are part of that Islamic community. Believers, males and females, are partners. The Prophet ﷺ's time, women were actively participating in every area of the Islamic society. They were in the classroom, they were in the jihad, as we know. Some of them took up arms. And Aisha anha ran a virtual university. More than 200 students graduated from Aisha anha. So this is the role that women, they should be in the forefront of the Islamic work, but it cannot be done unless they are given equal opportunities. Instead of thinking that the job of women is in the kitchen, which still is, even though Islamic movement is active in Kerala, and when we go there, my wife says to me, I cannot be here because all the time is occupied. In the morning, we need to have that laborious extended breakfast. It takes 2 hours, and then as soon as we eat that, we need to have that extensive, detailed lunch, and then after 2 hours, another preparation for dinner. So where is the time for women, to do anything else? They cannot think. They are vegetables. I know once in a while you take them out for protest. That's not enough. We need to give them justice. Cooking can be done by men also. This is the lesson for the Prophet ﷺ. He was standing for salams. Iqama was given. And he said, wait. And then he went home and came back and he said, I forgot to cover the cooking pot. So he went to put the lid on the cooking pot. So we need to change this idea that women are there to cook and serve us. We can do both. Together we can do it. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam yakunu fi mihnati ahlihi, would do the chores at home as well. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to see and make changes in our societies by empowering our mothers. They are our mothers. How would you want my mother, your mother comes to your masjid and you occupy the best place, and your mother in a dark room, no ventilation, no air passage? This is unfair. How do you do that to your own spouse, to your own daughter, to your own sister? This is not acceptable. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to be fair and just and to honor our brother, our sisters. They are our mothers, they are our wives, they are our daughters and sisters. I hope I am not, I think there is another question, 2 questions. The time is getting late now. So as per the Holy Quran, doing dawah must for all Muslims, then what are different approaches one can adopt for dawah according to his circumstances? Surely this is a question that needs very detailed answer. I cannot provide that. I have already presented my brief vision in my talk. So, but we need to learn Islam as Aqidah, Sharia, and spiritual way. Because as Imam Shawaliullah said, Islam is not just Sharia of Moses. It's also the way of Jesus. Way of Jesus is spiritual. Let the one who never sinned cast the first stone. So don't rush in the name of Islamic Sharia. You want to call for Islamic Sharia, and then first thing you want is stone the adulterer. First of all, make reform in the society, look at the spirit of these laws, establish justice and fairness, provide for everybody. Umar ibn Khattab did not cut the hands of the thief when he had failed to feed them. And he said he is going to cut the hands of those who employed these people and did not feed them, provide. Now, if you apply this logic, what about people who are employed in the Middle East, in various countries, the so-called countries where Sharia is supposed to be working? But is that a Sharia that you somebody and you don't respect, you don't give him salary? And if salary is given, he cannot even survive. He cannot even feed his family. He cannot bring his family. This is injustice, actually. And how much money is wasted on frivolous things, even providing coffee in the office, millions of dollars spent, but no payment for these poor workers. This is injustice. That's not Sharia. As Imam Ibn Taymiyyah said, where there is no justice, there is no Sharia. So we need to understand Islam as a Sharia, as a spiritual way, and try to project it that way. Then only Muslims can move forward, inshallah. Another question, typical question about music. Music itself is just like any poetry, fiction. It can be used for good or bad. If we don't use it, surely Shaitan is going to use it. So ask yourself, are you going to use it for propagating your ideas? Prophet ﷺ, even though Quran condemned poets, but poetry was used in the service of Islam, fiction was used in the service of Islam, and that's why we need to develop Islamic art. Music thrived in Islamic societies, and of course we have to make a distinction between good music and bad music. One of the great Shaykh of Al-Azhar, Sheikh Attar, who made a commentary on work of Jamul Jawami, we were taught that in Sharabaram College. He said, somebody asked him about music, he said, if somebody cannot appreciate the beautiful music, the rainforest, the music of the birds and the water running, he should deplore his condition. He is as good as a donkey, meaning he is deprived of that aesthetic faculty, instinct. So we need to make a distinction. The Prophet never condemned music per se. All those traditions, music and musical instruments, is associated with singing and girls, adultery and drinking and things like that. So as long as music is used for the right thing, to uplift the spirit and send the ethical message, that is fine. A final question here is, I'm going to answer that and then I will need to close this. How the zakah on salary income is calculated. First of all, as we should know, zakah is on the net saving that you have. So everybody who is salaried, he should look at the whole year, the salary that he has received, and then deduct the basic expenses for himself and his dependents, including his wife, children, and parents who are poor, grandparents who are poor, and the young ones, even brother who is dependent on him. So take out these basic expenses, food, drinks, clothes, shelter, and medical expenses, educational expenses, and whatever remains, we need to give zakah, but we can add it with others if we have other income. Also jewelry, which is not used on a regular basis. If it is more than $7, we need to estimate it every year and take out zakah for total at the rate of 2.5%. We can also, if you have a house, we bought it on mortgage because we could not access Islamic finance. In that case, the mortgage payments for the year has to be deducted and then that should be paid. We cannot take out the amount of the whole mortgage, then nobody will be paying zakah in North America. They may have a big house. So I hope I have answered some of these questions very briefly. Now, if you have more questions, I have my own personal website, askthescore.com. Actually, there are a lot of answers there, some of them brief, some of them detailed. You can also post questions there. I also appear on Islam.net in live fatwas. You can send in questions. I do answer them. There was a live question session last week, and that is there. You can access it, and you will see a lot of questions came from various parts of the world, and I did answer them. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us. I really thank all of you. It's wonderful. I know when you look at these pictures, we think that it's a still picture, but you are there listening. You are there. Sometimes you may not agree with my views. Of course, I don't have the gospel truth. I am simply a student of Islam. No matter how many years I have studied, I don't have the whole truth. Could be wrong, I could be right. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what good we have said, it's all because of the grace and mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever wrong we have said, I'm open for criticism. You may criticize me, but I'm not enemy of Islam. One time I was on Islam Online, at that time Islam Online. I had gone to Abu Dhabi and they invited me for a speech, the Islamic Center. So I asked them, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to criticize America? And then all of us clap. You know, America is all bad, Israel are bad, and they're all great. And then we go home. Or do you want me, instead of, there's no benefit for us in criticizing America or Israel, we can only change ourselves. So do you want me to have an internal critique of ourselves so that we can improve ourselves? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Allah will not change the condition of people unless they are willing to change their inner condition. So I made a speech, and then I am online, on Islam Online live fatwa next week, and somebody sends a message to the editor, this Ahmad Kutty is not a mufti, he is not a scholar, he is enemy of Islam and Muslims. Because I heard him speak in Abu Dhabi, and he had nothing good to say about Muslims. Actually, that's not my message. I love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I love Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and my prayer is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us all to live as Muslims and die with faith and be raised up under the banner of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And whatever mistakes we make, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us. But our intention is to make Islah, to make changes for better in ourselves and others, brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I hope you have enjoyed, benefited something from this. You may contact me, inshallah. I would like to receive the email IDs of everybody participant. Inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to save ourselves, save our families. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we die, wherever we die, leave behind us a legacy of good works, inshallah, so that when I die, I want my spouse, my wife, my children cherish me, remember me as a loving husband, loving father. The same as Rasulullah was. When he died, the Sahaba remembered him for his goodness. So let us try to serve, pass behind us, leave behind us a legacy of good works, inshallah. I know you are all doing this. This is a good work. Let's continue to do that, and may Allah strengthen us and help us live as Muslims and die as believers and be raised up once again in the company of Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So was it you could hear everything, or?
Yeah, of course, we had everything, no problem.
Was there any problem? Was there any problem?
No.
Okay. So can I take leave now? Can I take leave now?
Only for 1 minute. I'll just conclude the program. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. First of all, I thank our Sheikh Ahmad Kutty Sahab for sharing us his valuable time as well as his thoughts, and he answered almost all the questions we have made earlier, and we hope that he will answer the remaining questions whatever we are having through online, and I thank all of our viewers on Hangout as well as in YouTube, and we hope that we can make use of Sheikh Saab once again when he gets time. And I apologize for the little delay in the starting due to some technical reasons. Anyway, thank you all, and thanks Allah, Alhamdulillah, we could able to make a good attempt this time. Okay, thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum.